Asenvusele maswahla mahle senvusele benkosile enhle ehlelweni Embili Kanye Kanye bito lami ngiJohn ngakaPhirezi Sibongo kwinfokoto maswahla mahle ukuthi bese ngaphinzeke sidibane kuloko ehlelo lomuhla sitawuteka ke tindzaba letawelekelela lakithi ukuthi ke lifike ke esigabeni semavela athuthukile kungako ihlelo luthi Embili Kanye Kanye kuyawuba kuhle uyati noma thina siyabe sesikhulile kuyawuba kuhle lokuthi sibuke emuva sithi awusiwafakile emandla naleli verse sithi masibuka emuva ubone lokuthi cha kuyasebenzeka lababona tithombe ku social media batawuvumelana nami mawubuka ke aerial view noma aerial landscape yembabane the capital city of the beautiful kingdom of Eswatini labahambe itolo babhekane lababheke khona ngetizathu etahlukahlukene mabangabuya namuhla noma mababuya bakhanzela idolobha lingilokuleli ngiko uyamangala embabane as a capital city of the country has completely changed and we are proud as a country to have realized such milestones kulesikhathi lesisaphila kiso mabuka emadolobha lafa ekhathi bozulwini ayathuthuka lamadolobha kunabo Malkens some developments are coming up there and not only in infrastructural development do we have to commit our effort to making sure that our country realizes the national objectives that it has letinye tindvo tidzinga ukuthi sishintshe ama policies siwakhulume siwahloniphe futhi lamanye ke lakhona nemithetho leminye leshayiwe kuyabida lokuthi silive si appreciate ukuthi lemithetho leyo ishayiwe leni kuze ukuthi le live lifike ke esigabeni semavela athuthukile ngiyathi ke labanye batawuthi ngiyathanza ladana inkulumo lethide mangithinza indzaba temthetho siyawithinza leyo ndzaba lekhulumisa ke tona ke tindzaba temthetho ngiyabona kumbe sitawuthi khulumisa tindzaba temthetho wepoka elihlelweni lwangelusondvo just to appreciate lokuthi lo mthetho wakhiwelwani uyini emaswati ukhumbula ukuthi sawukhulumisa umthetho weSodov before nje uqale ukukhulunyiswa nekapply tinkantolo salithola lo office la ka Director of Public Prosecutions sawukhulumisa lo mthetho emaswati awuconza abuti imibuto ngina ngikholela ukuthi nalo mthetho we prevention of organized crime siyathinga lokuthi nje sesike siuhlatiye siukhulumise sibuke lokuthi uhulumende nema stakeholders makathi awube khona lo mthetho wawukhonela ini asikho ke lapho maswati lamahle lomuhla sisenza beni yekukhulisa abantwana namuhla esigabeni lapho khona imithetho seyishintshile njengoba sikhuluma ngabo Sexual Offences and Domestic Violence Act bo Children Welfare and Protection Act sikhuluma ngendzaba ukuthi abantwana ngabe vele kusalunga yini lokuthi siba discipline ngekubafaka indvuku ngekubashaya ngekubakhulumisa ngemagama kumbe laqinile noma la ngasalungi phephenda ngelisondvo kunendzaba lesiyibonile kunathathe lona eminyaka lengemashumi lamathathu namunye 31 wangakhona la esiphocosini manje wala idolobheni embabane umgwebeke iminyaka lesihlanu ejele noma kabhadala imali etinkulungwane letisikhombisa kulandela ukuthi ashayeke umntwana wakhe noma ke umntwana wabhuti wakhe noma wasisi wakhe indzaba igcineke sayifike enkantolo wagwetsha loyo tsatse ukuthi no akusafunga ukuthi umshaye lo mntwana ngabe wende tinfo letitsite kumcorrecta sifuna ukukhulumisa ke indzaba ye positive discipline namhla maswati lamahle siyathi ukuthi singemaswati sinengolelo ukuthi hey basishayile itolo bomake nabo babe sibandvu nje namuhla kungiloku lesingiko do we need positive discipline itopic yethu it's understanding and embracing positive discipline namuhla sethemba nje usemaswati atawuba ingcenye yethu ke sayikhulumisa lenzaba le tivakashitami ngungwane Dlamini lokhona ke studio director waka Crossroads bese ke ngiba naye ke lana Isaiah Kunene longo acting regional education officer esigodini sakaManzini he is an accredited marriage counselor and a pastor utawusisitayi ukuthi siyikhulumise lenzaba leyo both as a parent and as a pastor ukuthi lithini iBhayibheli but also within the school fraternity kungena njani ukuthi siyilungise lenzaba ukuthi bantwana singasabashayi ngeliswati kanzi ke sitawuphindze ke sithole ke nesivakashi sethu ke lesicavile lena ngeshaya kwetilwandle sitawuthatha ke lucingo noma ke Zoom sikhulume ke la na Lavin Farrell in the United States of America lesitabe sikhulumisana naye in the state of Texas she is also a certified professional student counselor sifuna nje kuva ukuthi masithi siya Embili Kanye Kanye emave lafa ekhathi bomelika enda ini wona etindzabeni ukuthi bantwana mabonile etikolweni noma emakhaya how do you deal with them how do you empower them how do you capacitate them and how do you even engage the parents kanzi ke Melusi zikalala sitawuphenzeke sikhulume naye nanaye elijakele elincane lakhona la ekhaya lelisebenzisana kakhulu nekuniketa ke abantu labasha ima life skills etikolweni utawushayela licingo la nga 25 minutes past 9 Dlamini kunene angikubingelele Nkosi inkulu lethuba lekuvusela emaswati
siyavusela John sivusele nasemaswatini
Sibonga kakhulu Nkosi kuthola naleli thuba lokukhulumisa indaba ye positive discipline. Sethemba nje emaswati atasibeke etelela ngoba siyathi ukuthi akhona lawa itolo la thatha umntwana uyashaywa kodwa nje sifuna ukuchaza Nkosi lokuthi ingabe umhlaba ubheke phi nokuthi kungasisita kuphi lokusebenza lokho kanjena. Babe kunene angikuvusele Ntimanze ngikuphe ithuba lokuvusela emaswati namuhla.
Siyabonga mnakethu John asivusele babukele emakhaya lesive sonke lesibukela lihlelo.
Sibonga kakhulu Ntimanze kuba nawe la ngikukhanza nje kuhloniphekile lokuthi besingaba nemuntu lomzala lo ngu acting REO ungumfundisi uphinze uyi-marriage counselor uphinze uyashumayela ngiyathemba ukuthi nje i-contribution yakho kulohlelo itawusita kakhulu. Sithenza njani ngokusebenza baye positive discipline kuvalwe itikolo lana setinabo 6 months or 5 months itivaliwe. Why is it necessary that we talk about the importance of understanding and embracing positive discipline?
Asibonge John. Umtali nobela basebenza nebantwana. Kungaba bothishela, kungaba bahlengekadi, kungaba nje nguwonke lophathekako ekulekeleleni kukhulisa umntwana. I-purpose yebutali or parenting ukuthi sikhulise labantwana ngeliso lekubuka ukuthi kusasa bato bayini. So thina sibakhulisa sibafundzisa lokho lesikwenta ngephandle kusibakona bakumunye bakuphile ngekhathi ngalama fisha lama traits nema virtues lesiwakhuluma la ngephandle ukuthi aba practice bo self control aba practice I discipline nabo respect sithi lokho abakumunye kugcine kube yinto yabo ngoba kusasa sidabe singekho kubathathela letincumo. So as parents, we want to develop what we have provided on the outside to enable these children to take ownership.
Kuyevakala Nkosi ngicela kubuya nje kuwe Ntimanze indzaba ye positive discipline indzaba nje lefike sekungathi kumbe ifika ngidawuthi nebelungu angisho njalo vele ngibekisile ngathi sikhule sishayo nami ngashaywa kodwa make bekathi makangithinsitile phinza ngibuyise lana sikhulume kahle ngibone ukuthi cha yini positive discipline Ntimanze.
Asibonge John kwekucala nje kuveta lokho ukuthi vele indlela yokukhulisa abantwana ngalokusebenzisa indlela lenemandla noma yekushaya yindvo lesikhule siyathi lesebentile iminyaka kufake loluhlelo lokucondzisa abantwana singasebenzisi indlela letinemandla lohlelo loluthi yebo siyisebenzisile lendlela yokushaya kodwa ke iminyaka leminingi siyisebenzisa asikayihloli sabuka tikhona letinye tingoni lesingatisebenzisa ukukhulisa umntwana titasinika ntona ngiko ke lesithi sibuya kubuka ukuthi kuthi indlela lengiyana lesingathi phelele perfect in a sense nasikhulisa umntwana kodwa ke lena lesibuka ko sithi asesibuke nayilenye lena lesithi sesisebenzisile lena ekushaya siyabona lokungwazi ukuthi kukhona lokusinika kona lokunye lokungeke kwasijabulisa ngiko sidakubuka nako ukuthi sicabangelani ekubuka letinye indlela.
Ngabe likhona nelicwaningo kunene lolungaveta noma lwesekele lokuthi vele bese sikhona sidingo sale positive discipline njengoba ngeke ngabekisa labatelwe itolo labashayiwe batawuthi uyumuve nje umbathi nginjenje ngilokuthi ngashaywa ninjenje ngilokuthi anisashaywa lukhona nelicwaningo Ntimanze lolikhombisa lokuthi vele ingathi bese sifikile esigaba noma sidingo sekuthi sibuke lendlela yokuthi banifana mangabe banetigwego noma bathi ngakucondziswa ngandlela thinte kuyasisebenzela into kubashaya noma kusebenzela luthini ucwaningo Ntimanze.
Siyabonga kakhulu John lukhona vele sekuhamba iminyaka lengetulu kwa 30 lutama kubuka lokho ukuthi vele lokusebenzisa indlela yemandla kuyasinika indlu lesikufunako kuyasendela ukuthi labantwana base bayalunga bayaconza kodwa ke kakhulu uhamba Embili ngulo sebenza songqondo lo wende luhlolo lonenge Elizabeth Thompson Bishop uyisebenze kakhulu ke useAmerica wenda lihlolo lolunzulu noma lolujulile ngeke ukuthi vele kusinikani ukukhulisa umntwana ngendlela lenemandla uma yenda loluhlolo noma abuka donke tingoni betihanjwa kubukwa kucwaningwa ukuthi lo mntwana lokhule ngalendlela wena kubonakala ukuthi labanengi labakhule ngalendlela yalamandla vele ukhanza ukuthi isikhathini lesinenge akubahambeli kahle ekutheni basebancane nje ngendlela laba bese baveta timbawu tekuba nelulaka tekuba neludlame kumbe kulabanye noma sebakhulileke sekungibabe asathetha ukhanza ukuthi loyo muntu loyo vele ukukhombisa letimbawu talendlela lakhule ngayo labaningi ke
mangabe ushayiwe ngiyacolisa kuhlaba mangabe ushayiwe nje ebunvaneni sekangibabe ngamkhanza sekafuna ukucondzisa make ngekuthi amshaye mangabe kumbe make kukhona labangaboni ngaleso linye khona
embeleni nawulandzela bonke laba labaneludlame ekukhuleni kunemthelela thide wendlela labakhule ngayo ake ngibekise labanye sebabambe imithetho eveni noma basesigabeni letingabe tivikela umphakathi kodwa bakhona ukuthi bahamba nase bafika kulesigaba sekuhlalisana nalabanye uma ubuta ukuthi vele lo uyawati umthetho lokhu uyakwati ukuthi kuhlukumeda lomunye cha akakhona ngoba ngilemvelaphi yakhe ngilendlela lakhuliswa nga pheceleti socialization ashumayele umfundisi epulpit ashumayele ngelithando laKristu kodwa makahle epulpit kutsaphutsata make ngetimbamba
wakubona ekhaya
yini ngile ukuthi akafundiswanga lenye indlela yekucatulula inkinga into la yatiko noma indlela la yatiko ngilothi nasifika singavumelani ngisebenzise amandla
ngifuna sikhulume sifake lenhlonipho la sikhuluma leMaswati akufuni bese sikhulume lendvo sikhanzakala nganyela ngasesisolakala ukuthi ngini Perez lenadukisa live banifana vele bayona naseBhayibhelini kubhaliwe lokuthi lobulima lobukhungelwe lanzanye nemntwana abususwe ngaleliswati nithi yini le nitsaseyilalele lapho Perez ngoba umfana makonile thatha liswati utawuyekela lendvo loyishoko angathi lokuthi inkosi sikubalansisa njani lokuthi kunetindlela eMaswati la khule atethemba ukuthi tiyakwenda umehluko empilweni emntwana asakhula lokufaka ekhathi lokuthi umcancathe ngeliswati nje mangabe kumbe onile sithini mbambambamba eMaswatini in terms of appreciating this new direction ye positive discipline lesikhulumisa kona namuhla.
Ngiyabonga John, sithe eMaswatini asi appreciate imvelaphi yethu kodwa estika stintshintsha lokusebenzela itolo kumele sibuke ukuthi kusasebenzela inamuhla ngetulu kwaloko ke John mhlambe siphinde siunderstand ukuthi nasikhuluma ngediscipline sisho ini nasisilomntana siyamdiscipline kulo positive discipline ngoba leligama lekudiscipline does not necessarily mean corporal punishment kodwa likhuluma kufundzisa kwakha nekucondzisa lokusho ukuthi li package licukethe leligama leli sithi ke asesilibuke ke kulokucukatha kwalo ukuthi ngitiphi letinye tingoni lesingayamisa kito lendlela yokukhulisa lomntwana ngendlela lengiyo la simkhulisa lomntwana ngoba kunemiphumela lesiyifunako lemihle simkhulisa lomntwana sifuna ukukhipha naku lesingakufuni la kuye simkhulisa lomntwana phansi kwesimo lesitawufisa ukuthi kusasa indlela lakuphatha ngayo sithokote ukuthi safaka lokuhle ke Perez umntwana by nature angeke azabe perfect kodwa lemithelela lokulesikufakako ngiyo letawumenta abe umuntu kusasa.
Uma nje kunene ungafuna kumgudluta Dlamini la ngifuna sibuye la kulenza bayale igama lelithi discipline because ngithemba ukuthi igcina isala lapho lokuthi vele kuthiwa lo mfana ukuthi awumdiscipline so lokumdiscipline akungazi ukuthi kuthiwa thatha liswati umshaye yini mbambamba lokudiscipline Ntimanzi.
Sisiyabonga John leli gama lithethwe kulamagama esiLatin lokudisciplina ngathi nje phecelele discipline lisho lona lokuthi uyamhola lo muntu uhamba phambi kwakhe uyamkhombisa uyamconza ngiko phela uma sitawulenzela nasevini kuthiwa le road of discipline lendvuku la iphathako melusi indvuku akathi shaye ngayo empeleni letimvu uyayiphatha ukhuluma ngayo manje ke lokudisciplina nalokusebenzisa icorporal lesithi kushaya kwehlukene kakhulu. Discipline isho ukuthi ngiyamhola ngiyamfundzisa ngiyamcecesha
Yeah. Kusitawungena la kule tinfo leti satshwa abatali kumbe nema stakeholders lokufaka ekhathi kumbe i-society generally lokuthi itasihlupha la lenzaba yale positive discipline sidayibuta le mibuto le kukhona yini lokusita kuyamsita umntwana lokushaywa ngifuna kufaka na element ukuthi mawushaya umntwana kukhona into soke ukwakha against nakulo kwentiwa i-positive discipline mawenda yona umuphi lo mehluko emkhathisini walokwendiwa kushaya nalokwentiwa i-positive discipline lokungendiwa ngilokhu lokwentiwa ngilokhu
ngiyabonga John ukhuluma umbuto lomuhle lokuthi ngeke sithi kumshaya umntwana kwendilutho kukhona lokwendako uyaluletha lushinjo kodwa lolu shinjo lokulethako lesikhashana alufinyeleli ngathi mangikhuluma siswati uyanyanyalada na ushaya ngoba awususi lo msuka noma lo mnyombo walo mkhuhlane lo ngiwona wenda lo mntwana atiphathe ka ngidawubekisa uthi lo munye lamhla sibashayile nakusasa siyabashaya leni ngobe lokushaya kuvele kutsinza lenyama akumtsinzi lo muntu lohletile ngekhathi lo ngiyena mbambamba angilumuntu njengekuthi nje ngidawubekisa lokho ukuthi ake ngibekise lo positive let's asikhulume angikwendi uqonze ukuthi kwentekeleni lokho kusida ngani kusida ngalo kumenda lo muntu aconnective kuti control self control kuti guide angameli ukuthi azashaya ake ngibekise nje John esikhathini lesiningi ngesikhathi time factor sikhathi sisifunze ngekweukuthi angigijime ngesikolweni bangishaya thishela angigijime emsebenzini batangidiscipline asinayo ngiko ke awufike nje masontweni lamanenge isikhathi asesibamba ngiyabekisa yini sizathu asinabo ubumgcoka besikhathi kodwa siqhutshwa yini sesaba manje sithi ke lo hlelo loluthi asimende lo muntu ati akhone ukuthi atifuce yena kwendentino angesabi ngoba lokwesaba kusinika umphumela wesikhashana kanti lokuthi aconze ukuthi lokhu ngikwendelana ngoba lokushaya kumenda ukuthi endele wena lo mshayako emva kwalokho akusa nase kuthi phathena uthi phatha ngoba wesaba ukuthi awushaya kodwa i-positive discipline ithi angikuchazele uthi phathelani kahle ukuthi akusida ngani lokho ngiyabekisa sikhule nabo make bebavele nje nabaloyala intombazana ngibekisa hayi kubeka angifuni ngwadla la khaya ufika njani ukuthi kumbe ungatiphathi kabi so i-positive discipline ithi asingene sijule sithole lokho ukuthi wendiwa yini now ithi ke positive wonke umntwana utalwa kahle utalwa lokuncane kwelifudo kungawenda similo sakhe sonakala kodwa lokunengi kuqhamuka ku-environment in the society manje ke kukhuluma ngekuthi mina lengihlala nalo mntwana ngimkhombisane role modeling ngifakane ngiyathi labanye bathi sengente konke kodwa mbamba John ukhanza ukuthi sine challenge lenkulu sibadala number 1 i-instruction nje lenkulu yekukhulisa umntwana iba khona the biggest problem in this country is absent parenting angikho ngikhona ngihlala nalabantwana ngidawubekisa lo munye ngathi ngikhona ngihlala lo munye ehlala la khaya kodwa kude la kwendako nalabantwana la kukhuluma nabo labaqondisa kuko ukhona ulakha angeke ngikhulume ke ngemsebenzi
manje sesho ngani kunene ukuthi ukhona phela ngoba lo muntu ufanele ngicela nje ukuhlaba lwimi ngifuna kunenzaba yekushaya ngiyathi lokuthi sifuna ukuwayekelisa emaswati letinye taletini vele setinjwayelo lokuthi vele ukushaya kuyasebenta lokushaya kunento lokuyendako ndawusebenzisa item lesilumbi ngithi ku inflicta ipain physically and even emotionally mawukwenda kumntwana what are the consequences of the prolonged pain la mpilo nyalo mntwana nje lophila ngalokushayo lokuthi kancane so une pain lekayisafarisha kwakha ini la ekuphileni kwakhe lo mntwana
yes siyabonga John luqwane ngololwendiwe lukhanze ukuthi bantu labanengi labahambe labakhule ngekuhlukumetheka ngekushaya banenzondo bathukuthele andingibo lalabenda emacala lamakhulu la lokhanza ukuthi bonke kucabanga ukuthi angakwenda lokho sizathu yini sizathu ngiloko ukuthi unalo lokulwa ngekhathi lesithi uhabarishe ienga labanengi ake ngibekise nasikhuluma ukuthi njena ngashayo asisho icharacter sisuke sisho ivocation noma umsebenzi unawuva nje umuntu athi njena ngoba ngashayo ngoba na umbuta unjani vele uyamangala ngoba akatibona umuntu lo muntu uyagula ngisho labanye nalabashumayelako athi vele ukahle kodwa nasumlandzela impilo yakhe unenzondo uthukuthele unelulaka lolumangalisayo and lokho ke kwentiwa yini na kwentiwa ngiloko lokwendeka empilweni sithi socialization
bofuna komgodluta Nkosi
yes kungaba ngeta nje John ukuthi lokunye laba nako umuntu lo washaywa semncane une resistance to ukukhuteka ngoba seyenteka lento over a period of time akusamethusi noma ningamniketa sigwebo lesingakanani lo mtimba sowutayele kuabsorba ipain so uya resist akucorrectwa
shothi nje ngalamafishane asengibekeze ngempana lo shaywa ekhaya aphinda shaywe esikolweni ngisho sokuthi uyamshaya la esikolweni sekude nanivele kumsitanga because nasekhaya kwetayele
lo mntwana la abangani bakhe bathi ingwenya nawuthi nje thatha 3 uvela benda thathe 3 ahamba ngakashikishi
ingashiyi nje lendlela kashayelwa yona
ufuna ukuprovela labangani bakhe ukuthi sowuyingwenya ezakhula ke lobungwenya nalobucala bebungwenya beyangebukhula
ngicela kubuya kuwenti manje ngibonga nje lokuthi uphinze ube ngeREO ukhona kule education system la kule live siyayikhuluma lento ngiyabona lokuthi iyafuna lokuthi si correct from a newer or modern perspective singasho ukuthi lo kwendiwe ngilabadzala itolo bekunjani njanyana sisho nje lokuthi lucwaningo loselwendiwe njengoba siveta emascholazi ukuthi luphenyo lwawo noma lucwaningo oluveta kwekuthi nekwekuthi singakulungisa njani nyalo phela ngalokuthi nami nje ngikhula ngathi ukuthi lo mfana wadzelela ngingamshaya sengithi ke kutawufuna ukuthi kwendiwe into letside yeku upscale noma yeku capacitator umuntu lo taba ngumtali lokuthi no weva ukuthi bebashaywa idolo namuhla sekwendiwa nako angathi ukuthi kutaba iresponsibility yabani idolo ngoba labanye ngiyabekisa nje baze bayofundela abuthishela ngalokuthi hey ngifuna kubacula bayetselele kanti bantwana abasashaywa namuhla bukhona le kutawufuna sikwende ku create a new way of thinking and appreciating lokuthi kukunendlela le seyikhona yekwakha umuntu abe ngiko ngaphandle kokusebenzisa kumshayo
sisiyabonga John ukhuluma liqiniso lokuthi yonke into inesicalo kukhona la kufuna sicale khona ake ngibekise ngingumlimi phinze ngibe ngumlimi ngimangele siyofunza ngefuya ingulube sihleli ilanga lonke kulenye inkampani lapha kumathapha siyofundiswa ukuthi uyifuya njani ingulube utothola inyama lengcono best focus besingane indzaba nekufuya silwane kodwa kufika isikhathi lapho khona kuthiwa angibekise ngeke ngayetikweni letekulima ngathi ngiyofuna ingulube bathi sofundzele yini ngale ngulube ukuthi ikhuliswa njani ingulube bese uyabona ke ukuthi ma dynamics in society asewubuke nje sinebantwana na ungakubuta eliswati linye wake wayena wayifunza ngalomntwana lo naye namuhla linengi lethu sinabo bantwana kodwa le science behind the pedagogy behind ukukhulisa umntwana siyincane lesithi ke i-child development kusenemgamo lomutse John lesifuna siwuthathe njengelive to kuvumela lushintsho empilweni ngiyabekisa ke sesihleti lapha liyashisa langa lapha emathapha sifunza ngekuthi ihonji lonina uqala ngenina umphatha njani uyamasaja wenda lokho kuzo to get the best poker that is the science of raising pigs angibeke liqiniso sinemahlone simaswati ukuthi mancane emaswati lafunze ukuthi umntwana ukhuliswa njani child development in the modern world lokho ukuthi umntwana nakana 0 to 6 uphathwa njani ake ngibekise nje uma kathi ufuna ukuthenza umlilo sikhuliswe ukuthi akudaya awumuveke nakacala ukukhuluma John Tawuthini ngakudaya kusho ukuthini lokho ngale lwimi lwe parenting lusho sibo uhlanyela
ngicela nje ukubamba khona lapho Ntimanzi ngiyabonga ngethemba nje ngidawudibongela mina ephinza ngibongele namaswati labukelako lokuthi letinye tinho uyabona lokuthi sidende sicimetile esathi khanda sesihleli naleti inkinga khona la kuyasisita siyafunza ngethemba ukuthi amaswati ayasitakala ekhaya kumele usizikala la usebenza ke umsebenzi wekucecesha abantwana ukuthi bakwadi kumelana netimo tempilo bendeke tincomo letingito bangatawuthi khanza kumbe sebahamba ke emenene babuye nabo chuchuza kumele usizikala la is a life skills coach uvakashela ke tikolo kakhulu sifuna nje kuva ukuthi ingabe kukhona into ekubonako lokwendekako kwetikolweni bathini abantu labasha noma abantwana ngetindzaba tabo corporal punishment into inkinga lebabhekana nato baze bashaywe emakhaya zikalala asikubingelele mnetho sikuphe lithuba lekuvusela emaswati ehlelweni namuhla
angibonge kakhulu John lithuba lelifana naleli ngivusele emaswati labukela
angathi namazekela labo ilandzela inenkulumo lesikhulumako la ungilomunye webantu labavakashela kakhulu tikolwa ukhulume nabantu labasha kubasita ukuthi bende tinqumo letingito esikhatsini lesinyendo uyukhanze ukuthi labanye bachamuka kumbe nebuhlungu basemakhaya ukuthi bashayiwe kumbe nasetikolweni kusenema programs la khulumisa ukuthi mawungakayendi homework kufuna ukuthi ushaywe bulikhona iboni bantu labasha noma abantwana labahlangana nabo empilweni nje lokufaka ekhathi tindzabade ukuthi bayakwemukelwa into ukuthi bashaywe noma kumbe bakhuliswe kabuhlungu egameni lekuthi bayacondziswa
kulikhulu kakhulu John nasesikhuluma ngaleyo ngiyengibeke ngithi mina la empilweni yemfundi kunebantu ababili labadala inzima lenkulu kusekhaya abatali noma guardians lahlala nawo besibili bese sekuba bothishela ngasesikolweni and then lo muntu lo lamkhathisini ngulomntwana weliswazi lokugadzeke ukuthi afunde abe anganakekeleki kahle noma lesimo singamphathi kahle nalendzinga lekufunda alivami kubangini na uvamise kunaka nje ke labanengi balabantwana lokhanza ukuthi bavama lokushayeka nabasesikolweni ngoba bafeyilile abakabhali homework kwenteke into vele lo shayeka kanengi uvamise kuphasela emuva kunabo bonke labantwana labakhona la classini ngani lesimo sakhe sengcondo asikhondo ukuthi afunde kahle ngani ngoba uyashayeka kwesaba la kuye sekufuneka siqinele ugogo kufuneka khona siqinisela ngamike lokuhlungu kanti lokuhlungu nakabumika kuyakheleka lengekhaya nalekhaya lokhanze ukuthi akasupporteki langakhona nakathi usonzelana duke netincwadi hawu kuthiwa wena uyavilapha umuntu ovilapha-ko-ke kufuneka athole imvuzo lokho kwakha lesimo sokuthi angakhoni kufunda aphinde aphase kahle abantwana-ke sesiswati lokunye lesi singakubuka John abasafani nawo yabona nje wena John welusa naleli gogo lwakho wawungadli ama-cornflakes laba lese bakhona nyalo badlala ubisi badle ama-cornflakes badle amaqanda lesikhumba sabo lokushayeka naleli zinga lingena ngawo lokuhlungu sebukhulu kakhulu nalama-bruises lababa nawo lemivimba lasiwa lesikhumba iba mibi khanze ukuthi vele sekudaleke kugula ngetulu nje kwalokuthi umshayile sekudaleka kugula na umshayela muhla utawukhumbula for the next 2 weeks ngoba lo mzimba uyabonakala lomunye kuyawuba sikhathi lesenzawo lapho so lokho kulesa itrauma la ngcondzweni yalomntana vele angeke asakhona nalokufocus ngicabanga ukuthi na ubuka letinto leto ubuka sonke lesimo lesehlela lomntana vele kuyamdisturba kakhulu mina-ke lapho ngingathi kulahlekelwa lize njengoba sesikhuluma ngetindzaba ukuthi i-education free Eswatini siqala bengathi kulahlekelwa umntali ngoba ubhadele school fees umntwana ubhizi yangcinga uphinza i-grading nyalo sekusaba likhulu nalokuthi aphindze nangabe kubhadele uhulumende kulahleka umthelo wemaswati ngokuthi umntwana uyashayeka akakhoni kufunda ku-environment learning
Angathi sikalala ukuthi kuma engagements noma kumbe kuhlanganeni kwakho nabothishela nebantwana kuba sita kumbe ukuthi babe abantu abangcono kumelana netimo nokuthi bente tinqumo letingeto manilibuka lo hlelo lokukhulumisa abantu labasha closely kuyamsita yena umntwana lokumkhulumisa kunekumshaya ngizama nje ukucathanisa kumbe umntwana lo wenze kule program ema life skills training leni niketayo etikolweni mawumcathanisa nemntwana kumbe longakangeni ngaphasi kwalo hlelo njengalo ukhona nomehluko emkhathisini walabantwana lababili
lo mehluko uya ngekuba khona ngekuhamba kwesikhathi sathi lokutawenda lo mehluko noma lokuwenda kakhulu kuba ngalesikhathi ukukhulumisana nathishela abone lesizathu sekuthi yini lekufanele lesizathu lesenta ukuthi kufanele ukuthi ashintshe kule ndlela labuka ngayo simo nalalungisa ngayo simo aseseclassini bafundi ngoba sikhathi esiningi John umfundi nakemba into lengasiyo there is an underlying factor lokhanza ukuthi ihambelana nalokuthi kwendekeni ekhaya so bantwana labakhulunyisiwe bakhanzakala basitakala kangcono ngoba nalezi inkinga bababethe lelibonza lekwesaba nekufihla nekuvimbetela into bayakhona ukuvuleka bakhulume inkinga lababhekene nazo ukhanza ukuthi akusothwa nje ini kodwa ukhona kucondzana nale nkinga direct lokho kwakha ukuthi lo mbana asheshe abe relief akhone kubuyela abe sesimeni lesikahle ngekwencondo ukuthi mental health because vele kusebenza ingcondo esikolweni lokho kutawenda ukuthi afunde kangcono ngemiphumela yakhe ibe ngengcono esikhathini lesiningi kwanza ukuthi akawashi wena umshaya kangaka nje la esikolweni uyadibuta ukuthi kodwa uya-understanda intisha yathi nenkinga yakhe kona-ke vele ngeke sathini lena inkinga loshaya umuntu umshaya ngoba naye washaywa ucabanga ukuthi ngiyona nje ukuthi emne ngingathakasolelwe anikeze isikhathi sokuthi ende njani aguqule lo mqondo lokuphethe 25 years ukufunda angeke ngibheke kokuthi overnight so ushintshile so ukwenza ngendlela lehlukile kodwa ekugcineni kwako konke lesimo lesesiyiso imithetho lekhona ihlobo lebantwana lesinalo liyabika ukuthi uthishela nemntali nangabe beyabuka ukuthi kushaya ngendlela indlela lelungisatile nalesonzisatile hayi kufanele kusashinde khona
Eligama lisetshenziswa bantu nje malusi bathi umntwana ulihlongandlebe vele kufuna ukuthi umshaye ngokulihlongandlebe ekukhulumisaneni kwakho nabantu labasha ngoba kumbe bagcina babhoboka kini ngaleti indlela lentisebenzisako ukhona enivele umntwana lolihlongandlebe lokungaze kufike kubite ukuthi lo mntwana kumbe agcine ashaywa angashaywa nje ilanga linye ashayelwe lenvo leyo kuthiwa ngoba vele ulihlongandlebe sitakuphinza nakusasa uze uyekele lo mkhuba
lami lingathi akusika njani yonke into ingumthelela wendodite lenteka empilweni yalomntana esikhathini esiningi lo mkhanza abangumsindo nawuthi uyafundisa la kulabantwana mina-ke ngiye ngithi lokusikhulumisana ngimbone lo singakungazi ukuthi ufuna nje kuphekulalela ubanga umsindo most of the time you find that they are seeking attention ufuna kunakwa ubonwa ukuthi ukhona loyo mntana loyo nawutawuyalandelela ukhanza ukuthi vele le nkinga lekhona isuka le khashane ekhaya so mina ngekwami ngathi sakhiwa ngilesimo lesikhulele kito lesimo lesiphila kito lempilo lesikhulu esiyibona yentiwa embikwethu niyo leyakha wena la ukhona khona namhlanje nangabe keke kunalama-gaps lakhona la kulomntana vele utansi nakaphumela la ezweni noma nakafika lesikolweni afune kuhlale njena abonakala ngokunyeva ngokwenta into lesingasito lo mntwana loyo uyakhala lengekhathi ukhala ngekokuthi i-attention angiyitholi nawutawuyalandelela ukhanza ukuthi vele kude nalabatshali noma there is a dysfunctional family behind lo hlobo loyo lempande lokho-ke ngichaza kuthini ngichaza lokokuthi akatendi kulesimo lasuka kiso so angeke-ke bese sesimjada ngaloko sithi vele lona lihlongandlela lashayo nguye itolo nguye nalamuhla asesibuke lokokuthi yini lementa kokuthi asithathe ngale ndlela yakuphethena
David
Ngabe lithi nje lakho lekugcina kubatali ngoba njengoba sike sayibeka ngaphambilini ehlelweni vele sikhule sinenkolelo yokuthi siyashaya sikhuthatha indzaba ye positive discipline lingathini lakho lekugcina zikalala.
Mina lami lekugcina lengingalisho nje Maswatini Maswati lesimo asisafani nakuqala kuneni leso sikushinjile ngisho nemvabane seyishinjile nawuthi uyafika namhlanje ukhanza sakhiwo lebesingekho kulomnyaka lophelile lokho kusho ukuthi lolu shintsho ngeke size siluresiste sinengqoko konke elitawenzeni asingabi likhulu asihambeleni lokufunda ukuthi nyalo asifole indlela leqiniso ekolulekana sekuqondisana sekukhulisa bantwa bethu khona live lethu mhlaba live kusasa lingakagcwali indlukuselo ngoba le ndlukuselo iqhamuka lokuthi umuntu ukhule ngebusuku nesithunzi empilweni so nangabe siyabukula le ndlela leyo asibukule le ndlela sentanga.
Sehlelweni Embili Kanye Kanye sikhulumisa ke Melusi Zikalala uvakashela kakhulu ke tikolo sizama ukuthola singabe velele etikolweni khona khamba njani nebatane bantwana labasuka ke emakhaya lokhanza ukuthi sebanato letinkinga ngekuthi kumbe ushayiwe isikhathi lesinyenti bekunethembisile amaswati amahle lokuthi sitawuvakashela lena ngeshiya kwetilwandle United States of America and we are going to talk to Leven Farrell in the United States of America in the city of or in the state of Texas usedolobheni lathiwa ukuthi ke Firth she is a student counselor and my understanding is that in the United States of America it is compulsory that every school should have a student counselor. What is the role of a student counselor especially with regards to where children have behavioral issues? Do they apply corporal punishment? What is the role of positive discipline and how do they even define positive discipline? Farrell, thank you so much for joining us right here on Embili Kanye Kanye, and we are so grateful you could take your time to join us on this show here tonight.
Sawabona, Umjani.
Oh, siyaphila njani wena? You've been polishing up your Siswati.
Yes, absolutely.
Fantastic.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
We really appreciate having you in the studio tonight via this platform. We are living in an era where everyone is affected by COVID-19 and there's new cases in the country. I think today we reported 18 cases. But how is COVID-19 in your state particularly? We know the United States of America is the most affected country in the world at the moment.
Right now, in the state of Texas, we're in a hot spot. So we have rapidly growing cases of positive COVID cases, and so right now it's on the rise. And our governor has now mandated that if you're in public, that you should wear a mask. Anytime you leave your home, you should have a mask on.
Wow, I think it's a worldwide issue. Everyone is mandated to wear a mask, especially if they're in public places. But the reason why we are hosting you on Embili Kanye Kanye tonight is so you can share your experiences as a student counselor. We are talking the issue of understanding and embracing positive discipline. Our country has an aspiration to rise to levels where we are on the same level as the first world countries. And one of the things we need to do is to appreciate what other countries are doing. What is your role as a student counselor, and especially with regards to the issue of positive discipline?
Well, my role is to provide a safe place that students can come to and be able to express themselves about whatever is bothering them, knowing that they have a person that really cares about their best interests, and knowing that I am going to provide ways for them to be able to handle whatever the situation is. Now, of course, sometimes there are situations that are out of their control, but we talk about what is in their control. So we try to use positive discipline because the research has shown that positive discipline has a much better outcome than using negative discipline.
Yeah. If we talk positive discipline, we first need to appreciate that if we are going to apply positive discipline, it is because we are making the assumption that children or kids have underlying issues, which is why you cannot just come with a stick and start beating them, you know. What are some of the issues that children go through that make them have behavior issues?
I think, well, there's a wide range, but as a school counselor, I'll just name a few of them. Maybe mom and dad are getting divorced. Maybe there's someone in the family that is ill. Maybe that student is struggling with their identity, just trying to figure out who they are. Sometimes children are struggling because they're seeing fighting and arguing at home. And so they start misbehaving in school, maybe not doing their work. But another thing I really want to mention, children and adolescents, they have a need for attention. So when a baby starts crying, we know that baby is saying, I need some attention, but that doesn't go away. As they become a toddler, adolescent, teen, they still have a need for attention. And I always like to compare it to a bucket. And at the end of the day, each child's bucket needs to be full of attention. That attention can either be negative or it can be positive. Now, it doesn't make sense to us that a child would want to get in trouble to get attention that way. But for that child, they're still gaining attention. If my mom had to come up to the school, or my dad, I had to go meet with the principal and with my counselor, I'm still getting attention. And so we can make a choice to provide positive attention for these kids, or they're going to seek negative attention. But at the end of the day, that bucket has to be filled up, and we as adults get to decide how we're going to fill that bucket up.
Yeah, that's a good example actually. Tell me, the program that you have as student counselors, what does it entail? Because I suppose it has to meet both the needs of the school, the needs of the child, and where the child comes from. It could be a parent, it could be a guardian. What does this program entail in terms of saying when you engage the child, it must also cover what the school needs and what the parents or the guardian is going through concerning the behavior issues with the child?
Okay, so number one, we're concerned with academics, okay? And that being said, if a child is struggling or having behavior issues, that's going to affect the academic. If they're having social or emotional issues, that's going to affect the academic. So school counselors are responsible for the academic readiness for the child, for consulting them career-wise, and also with assisting them with any social, emotional issues they may have. So we have a wide range of responsibilities, and on any given day, depending on what goes on with our students, our day can change. I could have a day where I've had a student that has had a meltdown, and they're with me the entire day in my office if we can't get a hold of a parent to come in. And I'm working with that student and getting their assignments from their teachers and just keeping them with me as we go through, you know, whatever issue is going on. So we're responsible for academics, for college consulting, for career, and for social emotional help with the students.
Yeah.
I do want to add, we do have a crisis counselor that specializes in social and emotional issues. So if I have a student that, let's say it's something that's going to be ongoing, maybe if it's 2 or 3 visits with me within the month and it can be solved, or I can help them that way. But if it's going to be ongoing, then I make a referral to our crisis counselor. And then our crisis counselor will get in touch with the parent to get permission. And then our counselor will start to meet with that child on a regular basis to try to help them work through whatever the issues are with that particular student. And how misbehavior looks different ways. Sometimes we have students who just shut down. They quit doing their work, won't talk. We have others that then, you know, start maybe lash out at other people because of anger. So it just depends on that self-harm. So it just depends on the student what that misbehavior looks like.
Yeah. And one other question. How do you, from a positive discipline perspective, how do you get a problematic child to toe the line? Because typically the conventional way was to apply corporal punishment. But from a positive discipline perspective, how do you get a problematic child to toe the line?
The number one thing is that child first has to know that I care about them, and I have their best interest at heart. You have to build a positive relationship before you can then work with that child in whatever the situation is. So that's the number one thing. The other thing is the student or the child has to know that it's safe for them to talk to you, to tell you what's going on, and that you are going to provide something to them that's of value. That means I'm going to give them something that will assist them in dealing with whatever it is they're going through or whatever is going on. And then I have to help them see the value of good behavior. I have to help them see how the outcome could be different if their behavior was different. So I deal a lot with thoughts, because we have a thought, that thought evokes a feeling, and then that feeling causes action. So if you can change the thought, then ultimately you can change those actions.
Yeah. And how do we get ourselves equipped as concerned parties? It could be the parent, it could be the teachers, society at large. How do we equip ourselves to appreciate that times have changed? Conventional years were saying apply corporal punishment, but today even the laws have changed from a UN perspective. How do we get equipped to make everyone appreciate that this is more beneficial than the previous way of disciplining a child?
If I could, can I use myself as an example? Would that be okay?
That is okay.
I was brought up in a household that used corporal punishment. And that's what my parents received from their parents. So that's all I knew. So when I started having children, I used corporal punishment because I didn't know anything else. So I actually joined a parent group. It was a training group for people with children from 0 to 5 years old. And they had different seminars and training for us to attend. They also had times where we could just drop our kids off at school and have coffee and we could talk about different things. Well, they had a training session on positive discipline, and I signed up and my husband came along with me. So after we attended the seminar and we learned that corporal punishment really was not effective, and we learned about some of the negative things that comes about from using corporal punishment. You have anger issues, you have poor parent-child relationship. You're modeling for that kid how to handle their problems when they become an adult. So when we learned that, we started using some of the strategies that they taught us in the training class on how to handle when my son didn't clean his room up when I told him to, or when he hit his sister and took a toy. And so all of these principles can be used from very young child all the way up to, teenagers. You just change your wording and change your approach. And so I started using those principles. We stopped hitting, and it was very, very effective. And right now I've got 2 well-adjusted adult children. One's a lawyer and one will be going to medical school. But I tell you this, what gets a parent, and myself being guilty, is being tired and taking care of your family and not taking care of yourself. So it's easier when your child knocks something over or doesn't do what you ask them to do, to grab them and hit them, and that's it. But in positive discipline, if I can give you an example, if I told my son, I need you to have your room cleaned up by the time I get home, and I come home and the room is not clean. This is positive, example of positive discipline. Son, Didn't mommy tell you to have your room cleaned up before I got back? Yes, ma'am. Were you aware of what time I was getting back? Yes, ma'am. Why wasn't your room clean? Well, mommy, I started playing my video game and mommy, I just forgot. I'm sorry. I forgot. Son, I am so sorry. I'm so sorry that you forgot to do what mommy told you to do. And I'm also sorry that I'm going to have to take your video game for the next 3 days. Would you please go get it? And you have the child go get the video game, hand it over to you. And then you ask the child, what could you have done differently? You give them time to think about it. You don't answer it for them. Well, maybe I could have cleaned my room up first and then played my video game. Yes, that's good. That's good. I like that. That's exactly what you could have done. So the next time this comes up, you have a way that you can do it, right? The child says yes. You take the video game, you keep the video game for the 3 days. That took more time. And so sometimes parents being tired, we go to what's easier for us, but it's not the best thing for the child. And they don't learn anything from using corporal punishment.
Yeah. And
Go ahead.
And maybe just one quick last question, maybe 30 seconds. Tell me, are student counselors compulsory in the education system in the United States of America? Or is this just a privilege with your school or even in the state of Texas alone? Or this is just a broad-based approach in the United States of America for every school to have a student counselor?
Best practices is that every school has a school counselor. Now, I cannot answer whether or not every state in the United States and all of the schools have a counselor, but I can tell you that the states that I have lived in have all had a counselor. How many counselors? That's going to vary. So best practices, every school should have a counselor, and even the United States is learning the value of a counselor. See, when a kid takes a statewide assessment, you can get the score and you can measure that. But when a student comes in my room and they're crying and something is going on, and I sit and I talk with them and I show empathy and I give them ideas on how to solve it, and they're able to go back to their class and get their work done. See, you can't measure that. And that's why a lot of times people don't value counselors. But I tell you, counselors affect the bottom line. Academic achievement, student social and emotional welfare. And I think it's so important. And the United States is starting to really understand, especially during this time of COVID, the counselors became so very important in dealing with our students who were struggling with being at home and isolated and not being able to attend school and be around their friends. And so I had counseling sessions via Zoom or Google Hangout with my students to talk with them during the time that they were away from me because of COVID. Very, very important. Counselors play an extremely important role in the school system. Do you know my counselor in high school picked me up every day for a period of time? I lived in Michigan, and my school I went to a Catholic girls' school, and it was quite a ways from me. And I began to get a little depressed about having to take the bus in the cold, and I just didn't want to go anymore. I just wanted to go to the neighborhood school. So I went to my counselor and I expressed, my concern that I just couldn't do it. My mom was ill all the way through high school. I had a lot of responsibilities. And she said, Monday, I will be at your house to pick you up. She came to my house and picked me up until winter was over, every single school day. Now, you see how old I am. I will never, as long as I live, forget her. She absolutely made a difference. And I contribute where I'm at today because of her. I'm a counselor because of her.
Oh yeah, fantastic. Pharrell, thank you so much for sharing your precious time with us here. I wish we had more time just to continue with some of the personal experiences and some of the things we can take away as a country. But thank you so much for helping us dissect this subject here tonight.
You are very welcome, and I would love to come back again because I would really like to address the biblical principle that kind of leads parents to corporal punishment. I have a take on that as well.
Wow, we surely are going to get back to you.
Okay.
Uthenza lenza ba kunene ukuthi liBhayibheli lithi asivela lobulima bukhungelo lanzanyena sibashaye. Bengithi ngidawufike vele ngicale ngalombuto loyo lokuthi emaswada ngabuta lokuthi mase nithi labantwana bangashaywa sitabalungisa njani.
Cha siyabona ukuthi kufanele siconze lokho ukuthi umcondo kaNkuluNkulu ngekukhulisa umntwana uthini. uNkulunkulu uma kakhuluma ngakukhulisa umntwana kakhulu la kugcizelelako ugcizelela kokuthi uma ngumdali number 1 phila ngoba uma ukhuluma kuDeuteronomy chapter 6 uthi la mavi lengenifundisa wona akahlale enhlitweni entene, which means lo takwenda ukufundisa umntwana 1 you should internalize it, believe in it. Number 2 uthi ke speak to them, khuluma nabo nihlede nivuka nihamba, which means now the emphasis now is on the lolakusho nje isikhulumi sethu lapha eAmerica ukuthi it's tiresome, it's demanding. So parenting ibita ukuthi ngesinkulunkulu uthi do it over and over again, and which a majority of parents sine challenge because we don't have the time to do it. And uthi uNkulunkulu uphinza, don't give up, do it over and imagine. And he speaks about being there for the children. Umakathi speak to them nabalala nabavuka kusho ukuthi the man should stay at home, the mother should stay at home. And you don't talk about bobabe, most of us as men were absent. And that is why then we have a challenge with positive discipline, because that's God's way. Because God's way is saying, stay with them.
Yeah.
Do it over and over again.
Because benze ngifuna ukubuda lana lokuthi lenye iconcern futhi iconcern lekhona le legitimate ngoba yabona info lehleli lokhule ngayo utshelwa yona wayibona isebenda khona abantu futhi ababaganga idolo bashaya bakuyekela lokuganga bathi ngamcondzisa atawuthi ngemaswadi positive discipline is contrary to our belief system and culture as a country. Nifuna kusiyekelisa info lengumhambo ukukhulisa abantwana.
Akusikuthi sithi emaswadi akayekele into lengumhambo, sithi awabukelenye indlela lesingahamba ngayo. Yes.
Nembala kunenfo loyishilo lana ntimanze le ukuthi benifundzela ukukhulisa ingulube ngala. Wayichaza lento ngayibona lokuthi yathi kube kuyendeka bekufuna kube ngumthetho lokuthi ungakamlethe umntwana la emhlabeni kufuna somane uhambe uyofundzela lokuthi umkhulisa njani. Nibe nenhlanhla nina lafundzela lapha kumathapha lokukhulisa ingulube. Batali bangafunzelaphi lokukhulisa abantwana because ngicabanga ukuthi ilapho le challenge futhi lokuthi kumbe siyafuna lokushintsha njengoba ngibekisile masivula lihlelo lokuthi lo dzadze uthi khanza somembi kwamanje bekathi uyamcondzisa lo mntwana hayi ukuthi kumbe bebalwa manje imithetho nekhamba kwetikhathi seyithi sowona ihambe enkantolo ubhadale 7,000 noma 5 years ejele. Singakufunzelaphi lokukhulisa labantwana singatawuthi khanza sinanathi inkinga lesibhekene nato.
Thank you, John. Lisisho selelinye live sithi a journey of 1,000 miles begin with the first step. One of the things that we need to embrace as a country, we need to have a policy, a parent, khuliswa njani umntwana, and enshrine it kuma policies elive. Kuthi kukhulisa umntwana indlela lekahle ukukhulisa umntwana. Kufuna sicale semukele lokuthi kunetindlela letinye letikahle tekukhulisa abantwana. Now that is very critical. The change in mindset lokuthi sikholelwe lokuthi ikhona lenye indlela lesingayisebenzisa, and that's the starting point. Then we can then develop the policies of parenting and have structures. Maybe siwafaka noma singafaka kwi-ministry tsite lokuthi kune policy nje ukukhulisa umntwana ngoba sesibonile lokuthi kunesidingo sekuthi sibuke letinye indlela. Child development siyashota kakhulu sibadala. I'm being honest, ka agriculture ba advance kakhulu. Now ukhuluma nje ngekukhulisa silwane, they'll give you manuals ukuthi siphathwa stress ngasilapha kufuna improve hitting. It's a professional way of doing this. But parenting, show me a single manual your parenting. it's zero.
For raising a human
For
being.
raising a precious being. How much do you pay? Sifuna imali etinkukhwini, sifuna imali etinkomeni. But for children who are so expensive, we are messing up because we lack knowledge. And that's our biggest problem. So, but once we understand, we will begin a journey, which for now, we haven't even taken the first step. We are still considering taking the first step in terms of parenting. Because we lack knowledge. But once we get the knowledge, you're parenting, and then we begin to start baby steps, how then what can we change?
There is some critical thinking right there in demands. We need to do some homework as a country and take the initiative to do this. If agriculture has taken the steps and in the human being fraternity, we haven't done nothing really. It says there is a deficiency in the way and manner we've been doing things. Edlamini kunene sibongela Nkosi kuba nathi ehlelweni. Kusele Nkosi ngibona ngathi kunengakhulu. Nesivakashi sami lesemelika sishilo ukuthi sifuna ukulobola le yaseBhayibhelini. Kunenge lesingakakhuluma manje ngathi ukuthi kumbe evikini lethlako kungalunga yini siphinde sibuye. Siyawubona khona ngoba vele sikufanele ukuthi sihambela dulo bese iveta nje eSwatini. Kodwa nje ngibonga indlela lobekise ngayo la ekutheni yathi yonke info inendlela lekufuna siyifunze siyiconze ukuthi lento iphathwa kanje kunetinfo lesidonile itolo lesingadilungisa. And to Pharrell in the United States, thank you so much for joining us in this program this evening, and we value your contribution. And to Melusi Zigalala, thank you so much as well, my brother. We really appreciate your input. Maswatla mahle Jehova kasigcine sibona ngalokudaba siphilile. Nisale kahle.